Well, that seems like almost an epiphany. If you start asking yourself, I mean, if you look at yourself as, if you look at your brain as though it is not it's not just your brain, it's not only your brain, which is filled with all of your experiences and programmings and everything that has happened in your life, but it is the brain of man. It holds not only your life, but it holds the life of humanity, all of the knowledge and everything that's happened to man throughout time since the beginning of man. So that's what you've got in your brain. That's what your brain is. So it is connected. So so that's why you possess the truth. That's why there is no need to seek and search for the truth, because that is what's going on with the brain. But then when you look at that, that is a concept and a theory. That is not actual. Is it? The concept of universal mind, universal consciousness? It's not really actual. It's a concept. So you have to ask yourself, okay, if you're going to take it beyond a concept, then what you have to do is you have to say, at least I think. This is where the epiphany comes, is you have to ask yourself, what is the connective tissue between the brains, between all these brains? If all these brains are connected throughout time, what is the connective tissue that is binding them together, that's connecting them together? Okay, well, how about this? The epiphany is that it's the same thing that all of the teachings, all of the learning about constant repetitive thinking, the fact that thinking has gone out of control. We're addicted to thinking. We apply thinking to everything. The brain does this, applies thinking to everything, things that do not require thinking, therefore causing you to be constrained and confined by time. You know, all the learnings from Krishnamurti. Alright, so it's that very thing that is the connective tissue, the connective fiber between all the brains. It's the thinking that makes it possible for the brain to be connected in. Because the thinking is shared. The thinking is like somehow shared universally. If you look at how thinking goes, because thinking is then projected outside, and the world is basically built on the thought of man. That's how men interact. That's how the brain is able to share information, because because the brain, the man that owns the brain, is out there interacting in a world that was created by the brain and by the thinking of the brain. So it is thought, which is the very thing that we are trying to cease to some degree within enlightenment or consciousness studies. It is that very thing which is the connective tissue, which gives you which gives you basically the truth, which is why the truth is a pathless land, because you're already at the truth, because you already possess all of this wisdom and knowledge of all mankind. Okay, but here is what is so interesting. You have got to take this to another step in order for you to be okay. So you're connected in the habitual nonstop thinking is probably has made mankind and the universal consciousness very strong. It's like very strong because all we do is think and project and then act, and like we make it all happen out in the world. So it's like almost everything that we're doing out in the world is just a projection of our thinking, which is a product of our mind. Okay, so anyway, so your brain is connected in like that. It's connected through all of the thinking. That's what connects it. Okay, well, here's what's interesting. The very thing, so the very thing that is killing you, the very thing that's killing you is going to set you free. The very damn thing that you're running away from is what is going to set you free, so you shouldn't run away from it. Thinking is what's going to set you free. That's why it's interesting with Krishnamurti, because he's very intellectual. He is actually asking you to think about thinking such that thinking might cease. So what I'm saying is I have right here, what we're looking at is you discover that the connective tissue between you and humanity is thought. That's so in that way, that's what is saving, that's what saves you. But the reason that you're already looking down this road is because you realize that thought is killing you. You understand that what Krishnamurti says is true, that thought is killing you because it is creating all of this conflict, which leads to suffering, which leads to pain, look at the world. That's all it is. We're just running around killing each other because we're in pain. We're killing ourselves is the point. Alright, so it's one big circle, but the circle starts with the inside, with the psychology. Okay? With the understanding that we're connected in, and it is thought that connects us. So what are we going to do? We need to do what the teaching says. We need to move away from obsessive thought. And what is that going to do? That is going to actually disconnect us from the humanity. But that's okay, because we have already taken in we've basically taken it all in, because now is all there is, right? If now is all there is, then we have taken in all the humanity that we can take in. We've got it. We've got it. We've got it. We're aware that we are humanity. We're aware that we need to observe what it is we've set up out in the world, and then, possibly go about, well, no, I don't, okay, no, not going that far. Not going as far as possibly going about changing it. Possibly, ... whatever it comes after, possibly, whatever. Anything's possible. But we're not talking about change. We're talking about what it is now. So the point is, we're connected in through thinking. And now we understand that. And we now have the tools to remove, we don't have to disconnect totally, but we can remove ourselves from the body of obsessive thought, which is the world, which is mankind. That's because everybody's doing it. So the very thing that connects us is the thing that we really need to make the connection smaller, back away. And the way you do that, obviously, is by using the tools which you have learned to cease the obsessive thinking to some degree, to basically observe without moving towards thinking, to observe only. When you observe a beautiful sunset, When you observe a beautiful sunset, and you just are observing it, and the power and awe of it, and it's inspiring, but it is not requiring thought of the last sunset or the last 1,000 sunsets. For some reason, with Mother Nature and natural things, you can actually look at them sort of afresh every time without passing it through a filter like you do when you look and deal with other people. We should deal with other people the same way we deal with a plant or the sunset. So you're observing without thinking, without turning the observation into a thought through the filter of your programming. And it is through that observation, and through the observation of mankind, through the observation of anything, through the observation of any of these awarenesses. It's through that observation without thought, which will lead you away to some degree from being so connected into humanity, which the connection is now saving you by bringing you away from it. That deep connection is what's killing you. And it's very interesting because so you become less individual in one way because now you realize you are the same as everybody else, but then you become more of you become more of an individual to some degree because you are no longer thinking the way everybody else is. And when you start doing that, it's very interesting because people will possibly they treat you like you're stupid because you're only observing, but you're not inputting your opinion or ideas anymore. And it seems strange when you go from someone who interjects their ideas and opinions constantly to someone who's just sitting there and observing. It appears as though you don't know what's going on, which is certainly as far from the truth as humanly possible. Alright, so anyway, I think that's the epiphany, is that the connective fiber of the brain of humanity is the thinking, and the thinking is also what it is that's taking us away from the peace the peace that we are naturally meant to have. Our mind is not the last step in the hierarchy of control. Okay? There is a self that is not the who I am. It's above that. It's not a self that's made up of all of your programming and experiences. It's something different, which is above, in the hierarchy of control, is above the brain. Something is above the brain. Something controls the brain. You have control of the brain. Whatever you is. I mean, good Lord in heaven. Jesus Christ. Listen to that. What a conversation that will require. But whatever you is, there's no need to go into that. There is something that controls that mind and that brain. And we can bring that brain into order by quietening the brain. It's got to be quiet. Which means we've got to stop stuffing it full of information. Because information is based on time, which is endless. So information, you always are stuffing information into that brain. in your brain, it's so paradoxical that information, which is limitless, unlimited, you can stuff it into that brain, which your brain is basically unlimited in its capacity to receive. But when you stuff something into that brain in an unlimited fucking fashion on a damn daily, hourly, by the minute, by the second, you literally limit the fuck out of that thing. It is very paradoxical. You take an unlimited supply of something, you constantly shove it into something that has an unlimited capacity. And the action of doing so limits the capacity of the fucking vessel, which is unlimited. So therefore, the answer and the solution is to stop stuffing that motherfucker. The only way to allow an unlimited vessel to be unlimited is to leave it fucking empty. How about that? How about that? So therefore, when you have an unlimited vessel, which in your mind, because your mind thinks, I've got an unlimited vessel, that means I can put an unlimited amount of shit into that vessel. No, it doesn't. That means you can't put anything into it. You can't put anything into it. How about that shit? You know what that means? That means that the people, okay, that sort of explains, maybe that explains what monks are doing. What people are doing that are isolating themselves, it seems like they're isolating themselves, but what they're actually doing, well, they are isolating themselves. And who knows? You can't speak to how somebody feels inside. So I won't even, never mind. Okay, so yes, they're isolating themselves, but they're doing it so that they do not receive any fucking information. Absolute zero. So they're taking, what they're doing is they're doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing, which is taking their infinite vessel. What we're all doing out here in the world is we're taking our infinite vessel. And those monks are probably doing it too, because there's probably, who knows, they're probably told, they probably are thinking, who knows, you can't speak to what is in somebody else's mind. The point of it is the constant input of information is what is making it appear as though you do not have a limitless, boundless pool at your fingertips from where to derive your answers. And, you know, that is very contrary to the way that we are taught in this society. We really are taught the gathering of information which makes you intelligent. Now, having information, I guess, makes you intelligent, but there's another level or a different type of intelligence which is not based on the gathering of information. It's not based on the gathering of information because it doesn't, that's why you might say it's another level, but it's a lower level. That's what's so interesting about this stuff. It's the lower level that is the better way to think. Meaning the level of intelligence that is not a product of thought, which means it is not a product of time, which means that it does not exist within thought, which means it is not a predecessor to observation. Okay, so there's a level of intelligence which is outside of observation within thought. But then there's another level of intelligence which allows for observation. There's a level of intelligence which is not an adding to. It's not an adding to what you have. It is when you stand and look at a sunset, there's a level of intelligence which has allowed you to do that. Not to receive what it is that you're receiving from it, that has allowed you to have awareness that there is something to fucking receive. Okay, so there's a level of intelligence on that side of awareness. What the hell is that side of awareness? That's the other side of awareness that is not the that is. There's one side of awareness which is something that is passed through observation, and then there's thought springs forth, and there is an intelligence which allows for that thought, but there's another intelligence which allows for the awareness that there is even something to receive and then be turned into thought. Oh man. All right. Wow. So then that, if you want to keep going and if you want to keep diving, then that is the level of intelligence that you want to start to look at. That's where some answers are going to lie. Because where will that lead? We have found out through thousands of years where the intelligence on the other side of observation leads, which is to thought. And we look at the world. Look at what we've done. Some people might look at the world and say, wow, it's great. But it really isn't. It's a big construct of nonsense layered on top of something that is fundamentally flawed. How do you know it's fundamentally flawed? Now, I don't do this, but I accidentally will sometimes walk by a television that has the news on. But turn on the news. Turn on the world news. See what war is going on now. There's going to be one of them. There's going to be a war going on where people are killing and murdering each other in the name of their fucking programming. In the name of their intelligence, which goes beyond awareness and was created by thought. Okay, so that's it. So that intelligence, okay, the intelligence on this side of awareness, once you pass through awareness and arrived at thought, see, that's what the intelligence there is, a man-made intelligence, a man-created intelligence. That's why it's not even worth a fucking penny to look at. It's worth a penny to look at, okay? It's worth a penny to look at. But it leads you to what's worth a fucking pound, okay? Which is the intelligence which resides even before observation begins. The intelligence which allows for observation. Now that doesn't seem like that could be a man-made intelligence. It doesn't seem like it. You know, I mean, that's one thing that for me, all of this stuff, all of this going down the rabbit hole as deep as you can go, as far as you can go, you just keep going. You don't look at concepts and ideas, you do look at actuality, and you just keep on moving. You keep moving from actuality to you go from actuality to concept to actuality, and you keep moving. But one place that it doesn't lead, that at least I haven't gotten to, is creation. You know, all of that stuff. Now, I've definitely gotten to God, but I'm talking about the creation of man, the creation of this brain that we're talking about, and these people that are running around out here. You know, And I'm talking about beyond the Big Bang. I've looked at all that, and that doesn't satisfy my this type of thinking that I'm doing. That doesn't satisfy it. That doesn't explain it. The Big Bang, what I see when I look at that, I see men's minds, okay, who are totally concentrated on one subject matter. Krishnamurti says that when you specialize, that you are so highly concentrated on that subject matter that you have limited your brain to that same degree, and that goes along exactly with what we're saying, which is that a unlimited vessel cannot be added to. Therefore, it has to stay empty. Krishnamurti basically says that your mind, if you want your mind and brain to work at its best, at its most full capacity, basically, I mean, he don't seem to say this, but it seems like he's saying this, don't put any information in it. Now, he does say you have to think to learn a language, to drive a car. Okay, so he's not saying it completely and totally. And he says that his friend says, hey, I read about you and what you were talking about regarding programming and conditioning. And he says, well, should I, if I remove my programming, then I'll start driving on the right side in America, or on the left side in America. Krishnamurti says, well, don't deprogram too much. That's great, simple answer. But, you know, you're not removing all thought. You have to have thought. But it's spiritual, psychological. That somehow that vessel has to stay empty, people. Somehow that vessel has to stay empty. Somehow, no matter how much information you add, you have to somehow keep that vessel empty. So you have to figure out how to do that. You have to walk that line. You have to walk that line. That's why you have to be aware of yourself. So I think the point in the beginning was that the very thing that connects you in is the thing that leads to the awareness that you're better off to be a little bit less connected, since you now have the awareness that you are connected. So that then you can enjoy the vastness of the mind instead of being so constrained by the humanity. Isn't that weird? It's that you are constrained by humanity. It is not that is what is boundless. It is basically you and your brain in a state of sitting in a state of non-judgment, or it's observation without thought. It's non-programming. So everything you do and see is for the first time and not filtered through thought. I.e., okay, here's the reason that you're doing this. The reason that you had to pull yourself away from humanity is because humanity, although humanity goes back as far as the first man, humanity has totally constrained itself by time through this obsessive thinking. The reason that the objective to move away from obsessive thinking is to remove the confines of time that are around your neck. Like my dad says the other day, I don't have time for stuff like that. I thought, wow, we really do confine and constrain ourselves by time. You know, I go to the gym all the time. You talk to fat people, they say, I don't have time to go to the gym. Wow, they have time. They have 24 hours a day to feel miserable, but they don't have 1 hour a day to not feel miserable. I don't get it. And if you're not constrained by time, you're not going to get it. You know? If you're not constrained by time, by time, then, I mean, you can do anything that you want. You can accomplish anything. So that, that's why you need to pull away. You need to cease the endless thinking so that you can then stop being constrained by time. Because time is what it is that's basically ruining. Because it's like, man, it would appear if you thought you were going to live forever, that you wouldn't be in a hurry to make the right decisions. You would just make the right decisions. You wouldn't think about the end of time. So it's like I like to say, that must be why I have the saying, which is, hold on, it's in there somewhere. Okay, people will say, I want to live my life as if it's my last, as if I'm going to die tomorrow. What is it? How do they say it? I want to live as if today is my last day, as if I'm only going to live one more. See, here's my opinion. My opinion is that is why everybody is making all these mistakes, because they're all chasing after something because they're so worried that time is going to end soon. It's not. Time is endless. It's not going to end. And so it's like get rich quick, get skinny quick, get fit quick. Everything is quick. Why does it have to be so quick? Why can't it just be done properly? Is quickness more important than being done properly? It just doesn't seem that way, does it? So don't get in a hurry, people. Don't get in a hurry. Don't be constrained by time. Do something right, no matter how long it takes, rather than being constrained by time. And it's paradoxical because when you do that, your fix is immediate. So my point is, I like to live my life as if there are endless tomorrows. As if they're endless. Because they are. Because they are, people. They are endless. Now, how does that explain the body and death? Well, I guess those are other conversations to be had. So, anyway, ta-ta, teto.